Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro upbeat about
We are talking about assets that belong to the Republic, money, and the heritage of all Venezuelans.
President Maduro also talked about a recently foiled plan to launch attacks to destabilize the country in the lead-up to the installation of the new National Assembly.
We have just dismantled a plan that was hatched recently in Riohacha, in Colombian territory, in the Colombian Department of the Atlántico, on December 21st. A meeting was held, led by 3 Colombian intelligence officers, closely linked to Álvaro Uribe Vélez, sent by Iván Duque to draw up a plan to attack us at the Curi hydroelectric plant, an oil refinery, in an attempt to destroy the headquarters of the National Assembly. The plan was called Boycott of the National Assembly. We are dismantling right now, with evidence in hand, with testimonies of the people who participated in that meeting in Riohacha. The Colombian government has kept it secret because we discovered the secret plan they had come up with for the coming days. In 2020, Venezuela has once again demonstrated the great strength of its institutions, the constitutional concept and of constitutional values, and has demonstrated the great strength of the civic military police union. Venezuela is under attack in a permanent war. No one should be in any doubt that the American empire has decided to recolonize Venezuela, to destroy our revolution and our institutions. We have seen an extremist version of the imperialist policy against Venezuela.
He also unveiled his government's economic strategy for 2021.
We are going to advance in 2021 with the anti-blockade law, recovering the national income, recovering macroeconomic balances, controlling inflation even more in the next year, and in 2021 resuming real economic growth, true economic growth. 2021 is the start of new, progressive, sustained, real economic growth, of the real economy, the productive economy.
Staying in Venezuela, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez announced that the country will resume its radical quarantine program known as the 7+7 method due to a rise in coronavirus cases. Rodriguez made the declaration via her Twitter account, noting that the measure will come into effect from January 4th and last until the 10th. Although the Presidential Commission for the Control and Prevention of COVID-19 reported that over 107,000 patients have recovered from the virus, it acknowledged that the country registered the highest number of infections in the last 2 weeks, with 437 new cases confirmed in 24 hours. Colombians began the new year facing a second increase in fuel prices in under 2 weeks. The hike, which came into force on Friday, will be implemented in the 13 main cities of the country. A litre of gasoline will leap by 31 cents, while the price of diesel will increase by 36 cents. The Ministry of Mines and Energy explained that the new fuel rate is due to the rise in international gasoline and diesel prices. We'll take a short break now. Don't go away. Welcome back. The United States has imposed new coercive measures against Cuba's main international bank on Friday to economically strangle the country. The U.S. Treasury Department announced the inclusion of Cuba's Banco Financiero Internacional on its sanctions list for supposedly disproportionately benefiting the Cuban military. The move puts pressure on Havana before outgoing President Donald Trump hands over power to President-elect Joe Biden. Meanwhile, the measure comes shortly after the Cuban government approved a series of resolutions aimed at favoring imports and exports by the non-state sector, for which the financial institution plays an important role. Peru's President Francisco Sagasti has called for a national agreement in the midst of the crisis following the violent police repression of protesting agricultural sector workers, which resulted in the deaths of 2 people. The decision to convene a forum to draw up a national agreement was announced as agricultural workers continue to mobilize and block the Pan American Highway to protest the legislation recently passed by lawmakers, which they stress only benefits big agricultural export companies and fails to meet their demands for better wages and working conditions. In addition, they have demanded the release of those arrested during the clashes with police. It is expected that the academic sector and different political parties will participate in the talks. And Peru's Interior Minister Jose Elise announced that radical measures will be taken to reform the national police after 2 people lost their lives at the hands of officers during the protests against the new agricultural legislation. The statements came in response to photographic evidence showing a policeman firing a gun at protesters. The minister stressed that the incident will be investigated. Brazilian authorities have detected the country's first 2 cases of a new strain of the novel coronavirus. The 2 identified patients are residents of Sao Paulo who are believed to have been infected abroad. The country's Adolfo Lutz Institute is undertaking research to establish the genetic sequence of the strain, which is believed to be 70% more contagious. Brazil has reported more than 7.6 million COVID-19 cases, ranking 3rd in the world, and has over 195,000 deaths. Continuing with news in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro's new mayor, Eduardo Paes, has taken office. On his first day, Paes launched a raft of investigations into corruption allegations against his predecessor, Marcelo Crivella, an evangelical pastor allied to far-right President Jair Bolsonaro. Crivella was arrested on December 22nd and suspended from his job. His administration is accused of forcing companies to pay bribes to win public contracts, committing irregularities in the construction of a COVID-19 field hospital, embezzling pandemic funds, and running an operation to stop journalists from covering the health crisis. In other news, El Salvador marked the 20th anniversary of the Monetary Integration Act that came into force on January 1st, 2001, which paved the way for the dollarization of the economy. Now, despite promises of macroeconomic stability 2 decades later, the country maintains a high public debt, equivalent to 89.7% of GDP, according to estimates by the Salvadoran Foundation for Economic and Social Development. Experts have noted that the COVID-19 pandemic has aggravated the situation as public debt has increased by more than 18%. Analysts also explain that Salvadoran monetary policy depends on the U.S. Federal Reserve, which means the national government does not have the capacity to react to an economic crisis. Niger's ruling party candidate Mohamed Bazoum will face former President Mahamadou Ousmane in a presidential election runoff in February, according to provisional results of the first round of the contest announced by the Electoral Commission on Saturday. Bazoum led the first round with 39.33% of the votes, falling short of the 50% needed to win outright in the first round. Ousmane received 17% of the votes, the commission said. The second round is expected to be held on February 21st after the results of the first round have been validated by the Constitutional Court, which will hear any appeals.
The valid votes cast amount to 4,778,573. The valid votes cast are the ones I just given you for a participation rate of 69.67%. The votes thus obtained are distributed among the following candidates: Bazoum Mohamed, 1,879,543 votes, or 39.33%. Mohamed Ousmane, 811,838 votes, or 16.99%. Sainia Umaru, 426,623 votes, or 8.95%.
Muslims and Christians living in a camp for internally displaced people in northeastern Nigeria came together to pray for peace in 2021 and spoke of their hopes to return to their home communities.
Our president should please help and resettle us back to our community so that we can pick up the pieces of our lives there. My situation as an IDP is indeed very unfortunate. But anyway, if my people will receive help, then I am satisfied. May God Almighty bring all those that are involved in these atrocities to the right path in Jesus' name.
I have a dream that one day we will be back to our community, and by the grace of God we shall be there.
Mali's opposition leader Samalia Cisse has been buried in Bamako following his death from COVID-19 last week. A public ceremony was held in the Malian capital for Cisse, who died at the age of 71 at a Paris hospital on December 25th. He was the runner-up in the country's past 3 presidential elections and was thought to have a high chance of winning the next poll in 2022. Cisse was taken hostage by Al-Qaeda-affiliated militants in March while campaigning for legislative elections in northern Mali. Amid public pressure, the Malian government obtained his liberation in October, along with that of French and Italian hostages, in exchange for the release of around 200 militants from Malian prisons. We're taking one last break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. U.S. prosecutors in the case against the 4 Minneapolis police officers charged with the death of George Floyd have requested that the trial be delayed by 3 months, citing the risks posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Prosecutors argued that the trial scheduled for March 8th should be delayed until June 7th to allow enough time for people involved to be vaccinated and the overall health risks to be sufficiently diminished. The now fired police officers were charged in the death of Floyd on May 25th when he was forcibly detained and pinned down on a South Minneapolis street corner, sparking protests that further fueled the Black Lives Matter movement both in the United States and around the world. French police have cracked down on an illegal rave party that had been taking place since New Year's Eve. At first, police struggled to stop the underground event, which drew around 2,500 people from Thursday night in 2 disused warehouses in Rouen, Brittany. Officials said ravers attacked the police on the first night, torching 1 vehicle and injuring officers with volleys of bottles and stones. The party took place despite France's nationwide 8 p.m. curfew aimed at dissuading people from gathering amid the pandemic. More than 1,200 people were fined for breaking the restrictions, and police confiscated the sound equipment and power generators.
Nous avons entamé une manœuvre ce matin.
We began a 2-pronged maneuver this morning. The first is a public order maneuver, with the seizure of the site mainly by mobile gendarmes, a public order operation which, moreover, took place generally calmly, and another phase, which is a judicial phase, about which the prefect has just spoken, with a multitude of citations in progress of the police custody, but you will understand that I will not go into detail about the police custody, which falls under the jurisdiction of the public prosecutor of the Republic of Rennes.
Rescue efforts continue in Norway as 8 people remain missing days after a mudslide destroyed homes in a village. A toddler and a 13-year-old are among the missing after flowing mud on Tuesday sent homes toppling into a giant chasm in the village of Ask. Rescuers have so far found 2 dead bodies. Meanwhile, the authorities have banned all aircraft from the disaster area until 3 p.m. on Monday as they conduct aerial searches. About 1,000 people have been evacuated from Gijerdrum municipality.
We do not know if we will be allowed to move back to our homes. So far, everything is uncertain and unknown. First and foremost, we think of the bereaved who have lost everything. We have lost our home. For a period of time, none of us know if we can move back.
Military personnel in Bosnia began setting up tents on Friday to house hundreds of asylum seekers stranded at a burnt-out camp amid freezing winter conditions. 150 army personnel brought in equipment to set up the makeshift accommodation at Camp Lipa, which is located near the country's border with Croatia. The tents will be operated by the International Organization for Migration. The country has faced international criticism for leaving some 1,000 asylum seekers without shelter after a fire engulfed the squalid refugee camp where they were living in December. Bosnia has struggled with a recent influx of thousands of people fleeing war and poverty in their countries in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia.
It's a problem of no humanity. Just food is not enough. Like showering, like accommodations, beds, mattress. Mostly people are diseases, you know better, like corona. Some people are itches, blood is so hot. No have humanity, just no have humanity.
Today we will stay hungry, okay? We don't mind. We can adjust it. We can drink water. That's enough for us. But the problem is, main problem for us, we need the containers, okay?
Hundreds of people took to the streets of the Iraqi capital on Friday to demand the expulsion of United States forces from the country. The supporters of the Hashid al-Shabi, or Popular Mobilization Forces, a state-sponsored umbrella organization composed of some 40 armed groups, carried portraits of Iraqi commander Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis and Iranian Revolutionary Guards commander Qasem Soleimani during the demonstration in Baghdad's western Shoala neighborhood ahead of the January 3rd anniversary of the U.S. drone strike that killed the two leaders. Iraq's parliament voted to expel U.S. troops from the country at the beginning of 2020 following the assassinations. The Trump administration has withdrawn some of its troops, but some 2,500 remain. And speaking at an event to mark the first anniversary of the killing of General Soleimani, the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, Hossein Salami, vowed on Saturday to respond to any action the enemy takes in a visit to a strategic Gulf island amid rising tensions with the U.S. Now, tensions have been building up in the run-up to the anniversary of Soleimani's killing, with 2 American B-52 bombers recently flying over the region. Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif on Thursday accused outgoing U.S. President Donald Trump of aiming to fabricate a pretext for war after Trump blamed Tehran for a rocket strike on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad on December 20th.
We would respond with a reciprocal, decisive, and a strong blow to whatever action the enemy would take against us. And this has been proven time and again.
Meanwhile, the head of Iran's atomic energy organization, Ali Akbar Salehi, has said that his country plans to enrich uranium up to 20% at its underground Fordo nuclear facility as soon as possible.
Mr. President is the one who should give the command on this matter. His preliminary order was sending a letter to the International Atomic Energy Agency, which we didn't inform them. We are like soldiers, and our fingers are on the triggers. The commander should command, and we should. We are ready for this, and will produce 20% enriched uranium as soon as possible.
On that note, we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. For our viewers in Africa, remember you can find us on Starsat Channel 461 in South Africa and Channel 539 in Nigeria. And join us on social media. For TeleSUR English, I am Doris Polo. Thanks for watching.